And some of those experiences actually come from bad judgment, only after you have made a mistake. Right? Once you make a mistake, that tells you next time what you should not be doing, isn't it? And what you know what you should not be doing, your whole process of that judgment gets different. Exactly the same thing happens within organizations as well. So whether it's about if I'm doing a belt tightening, how deep should I go? What exactly should I be doing? There's almost a knee-jerk phenomenon which actually influences all organizations, isn't it? So all the things which I'm observing as I'm sharing it with you in my own organization, as well as what I hear from some of my colleagues, that habits stay long and they die hard, really. People seldom learn anything from history. So both some of you who are not history gawai, we are known as human beings to continue to repeat the same mistakes. Several wars have been fought. At the end of each war, we say that look, it actually inflicts huge calamity, one should not be doing it and whatnot, but still you have world over, people continue to indulge in it. Right? And that's the nature of the beast, that's the nature of the human being. We continue to actually repeat the same thing, and exactly the same thing will happen again. We go back to the same point. Why I'm sharing it with you? Because a year from now, if you actually go back into roles where you have to make some of those decisions, let it reflect in your own mind. We talked a lot. What actually led to the situation is this whole short-term behavior of the organization, the reward mechanism that we were having in the organization, which was driving that kind of a behavior, people getting excessively greedy in being able to make those incentives, forsaking the future of the organization. The large fat bonuses in the banks, which was not really aligned with the performances, which made people actually take decisions which were not in the best interest of their own corporation. And that's exactly what led to the collapse of many of those banks, right? Did it? In less than about 4 to 5 months, since the whole talk about, we are out of recession is getting talked about, we are exactly going back to the same thing with a greater speed, unfortunately, right? So today people are just now jostling, racing. It's a different language. You go to any of the forums where my counterparts are, they're kind of trying to do a quick check. What's the kind of bonus, what's the kind of increase? Do it wherever it's actually deserving. So if you think you guys maybe just wondering if this guy from HR is standing here and saying that look, people should be denied the bonuses, that's not the message. Don't repeat the mistakes which actually led to a behavior which is not in the best interest of the organization. And if cumulatively done, there is a convergence point where things are once again begin to actually fall apart. And it's all about sentiments, right? Recession does not happen just because there is a data point which flashes and says that we are in recession. Recession is a moment of sentiment which just grips the imagination of all and will pull them back. So I actually hold back all the decisions which otherwise I would have done. Recession is when you were wanting to buy your bike and you say that look, we will not buy. Someone else was wanting to invest in his 2-bedroom apartment says that I will not do. Right? When people begin to think in that manner and they begin to pull back, that's when the whole sentiments they just combine and converge and say that look, let me just hold back. And that combined feeling results in the whole economy saying that let me just hold back. Right? And then all hell will break loose. So that's exactly what happened. The next one is that, and I think is important, the realism has to be married with a degree of optimism. And let me explain what I mean by this. It's good. I've often heard from my colleagues and friends say that, look, you must be completely transparent, you must let your employees know where we stand. You're not doing any service to his morale. You're not actually making him feel charged enough to think why I should be actually coming to it. It's not about a job alone. So that feeling of that element of realism that why you have to make that individual believe, you have to make the organization believe that there is hope ahead. And unless and until we are able to transmit as manager, each one of us as leaders, that feeling of hope that we will be able to come out of it, there is a future for each of us, we need to actually commit ourselves. And people who are able to do it within our own organization, they did excessively well. And those who don't, they just found that, because their teams and the group moving around with long spaces, their shoulders drooping, coming in, that's not a happy scenario when you walk into such groups. And you can clearly see the distinctive difference. And the last is, I think it's a more of an organizational statement, or it could actually relate to individuals as well. If you do not think about your future, you cannot think of having one. So, different organizations, while in that whole scenario, were also placing and picking opportunities and placing the bets, which they believe that this is more likely, when the dust is going to settle, there are few organizations that will be more ready to actually leap ahead. So whether it's about investing in new technologies, whether it's investing in new geographies, or whether it's about selectively picking up the right kind of people. So we have the same dilemma within Wipro as well. So what do we do? And we found that this was a perfect opportunity to strengthen areas where we thought we were weak, which meant investment. But you have to go ahead and do it. Why do you have to do it? Because you have to believe in tomorrow. You have to believe in future that you are going to come out of it. And I think that's where the huge judgment and the sagacity of the leadership is called for. How do you actually balance the two? How do you make sure that while you have to actually manage my today in some manner, you also have to actually invest in future? It's so easy. If your only job was to actually turn the tap off, isn't it? So I'm not going to invest anything, all the celebrations are out of the window, I'm not going to hire anyone. So I mean, I'm very simple as manager, it's very simple. All I have to do is to issue a memo to all my employees. Tomorrow onward, all these things are shut off. But when you have to make a choice, when you have to make a decision, what are the things you're going to continue with? What are the things which will still remain? Then I think the game becomes a little more delicate, and that's where leadership gets tested. That's exactly where the organizations get tested. As I shared with you, the more humbling bit which I would share with you is that it's not over yet, right? So we are out of it. We just should hope that we continue to actually, pick up the pace which we think individually or as organizations we are capable of. But we don't know. I mean, it could actually come back in some other manner in another couple of years. And the reason we say it because clearly there are trends out there which is continue to actually build that element of volatility which we have experienced so far. And we need to realize of it. None of it here is something which you have not heard of, but from my own perspective, very quickly I'll just touch on. The first one which we have already talked about. The second I think is important, and being able to live through the space more effectively is only going to improve. So what are some of those? I think the first is the business should always remember that they are industry, right? And industry comes from the word, what word does it come from? Yeah, it comes from industrious. And what does industrious mean? Hardware. So, success is not easy. And to remain successful, you have to be industrious.